Okay, it's 9:03 a.m. and you are already in trouble, which is impressive because you haven't even opened your laptop yet. Turns out Greg from marketing looped in your manager on an email you weren't supposed to see, which is corporate for "I stabbed you" and CC'd witnesses. Now there's a meeting. The meeting has no agenda, but it does have a pre-meeting because apparently we need a meeting to prepare for the meeting, like emotional stretching. You sit in a chair that is subtly worse than the chair next to you, slightly lower, slightly squeakier, and you've noticed it, and you're almost certain it's not an accident, because nothing in this building is an accident, especially not the seating chart. Somewhere above you, on a floor you've never been invited to, someone with a nicer chair than God is deciding whether your entire project lives or dies, and you will find out the verdict the same way medieval peasants found out about famine, secondhand, weeks late, and from someone who heard it from someone else. You nod along in the meeting. You say, "Totally, that tracks," with the confidence of a man who has never once tracked anything in his life. This is hierarchy. It's an invisible ladder where the people above you have a badge with a slightly bigger font and a parking spot closer to the door, and the people below you refer to you as the decision maker in emails, while quietly, thoroughly resenting you. You didn't design this system. Nobody did really. It just formed around you. And now you spend your time asking for permission to take a day off. If any part of that gave you a stress twitch, congratulations, you're living in a hierarchy. Subscribe, because we're about to go back to a time when nobody had a boss, nobody had a badge, and the closest thing to a performance review was your entire group telling you directly that you were being a show-off. So, rewind, not to last quarter, not to your first job, further, rewind 300,000 years, past every king, every CEO, every corner office, back to the East African savannah, where a small band of early humans is deciding who eats first. It is not based on title, because there are no titles. This is the flattest organizational structure humans have ever lived in. Here's what surprises people. For most of human history, there was no permanent boss. Anthropologists studying foraging societies, like the 000years, found a consistent pattern. The moment someone started acting like they were in charge, the group pushed back immediately. This is called a reverse dominance hierarchy. Instead of one person dominating the group prevents any one person from taking control. Researcher Christopher Bohm described this as an active system, maintained deliberately. If someone returned from a hunt and started acting superior, they were corrected socially, often through public ridicule. This wasn't random behavior, it functioned as a system. Groups used gossip, teasing, and, if necessary, exclusion to regulate behavior. Cooperation was essential for survival, so losing access to the group had serious consequences. That is why the system worked. It did not rely on formal rules because the cost of breaking it was extremely high. Did it ever fail? Yes. In rare cases, when someone repeatedly disrupted the group through violence or domination, stronger collective action was taken. Anthropological research suggests that in extreme situations, groups could remove such individuals entirely. This reflects how seriously balance and cooperation were enforced. Now compare effort. Your modern system requires tools, policies, and entire departments to function. The older system required none of that, just shared expectations and social pressure. That was the system, simple, direct, and highly effective. There's one specific practice that you need to sit with, because it might be one of the most clever social tools early humans used. Anthropologist Richard Lee, studying the 000years in the 1960s, documented something called insulting the meat. Here's how it worked. If you brought back a large, impressive kill, the kind of thing that would earn recognition today, the group's response was to downplay it, not because it wasn't valuable, but because it was. The goal was to prevent success from turning into ego. As one explanation goes, when a young hunter succeeds, he might start seeing himself as more important, and the group immediately corrects that before it grows. The point wasn't cruelty, it was balance. And this connects to a larger system, food sharing.
In many foraging societies, especially with large game, the meat did not belong solely to the hunter. It was distributed across the group, often following established patterns, and the hunter did not control that distribution. At first glance, this seems counterintuitive, but hunting success is unpredictable. Some days yield results, many do not. If individuals kept everything for themselves, they would face extreme highs and lows. By sharing, the group spreads risk and ensures more consistent survival. It functions less like generosity and more like a decentralized insurance system. No contracts, no premiums, just shared outcomes. And importantly, it prevents any one individual from accumulating enough resources to dominate others. So here's the uncomfortable reframe. Hierarchy is not the original human default. For most of our history, groups actively resisted it. Systems were built and maintained to prevent individuals from gaining too much power. Over time, those balancing mechanisms faded, and more structured hierarchies emerged. What we often see as normal today is not necessarily how humans originally organized themselves. So, the next time you're dealing with rigid structures or authority, it's worth remembering there was a long period of human history where those systems didn't exist at all. If this perspective changed how you think about modern structures, subscribe. Next, we'll explore another everyday experience through a long-term human lens.
There's one more piece of this puzzle, and it's honestly the cheat code that made the whole system possible. You could just leave. If a band started drifting towards someone trying to take control and social pressure wasn't working, people could simply walk away. Anthropologists studying mobile foraging groups observed fission-fusion behavior, where groups split and reformed depending on resources, conflict, or personality clashes. If you didn't like how things were going, you didn't need a formal process. You could leave and join another group. Compared to modern systems where leaving often involves long processes and uncertainty, early humans had a more immediate form of exit. So, tally it up. Modern hierarchy involves layers, processes, and systems to maintain structure. The older model relied on social regulation, shared norms, and mobility. One required institutions and infrastructure, the other relied on behavior and flexibility. So, the next time you feel small within a hierarchy, remember, it isn't ancient or inevitable. For much of human history, people actively resisted centralized power. The systems we live in today are relatively recent, built on top of instincts shaped in very different environments. If you found this perspective interesting, subscribe and stay tuned for the next topic.